to English from E to Z. Today, we're really tackling what might be the single most painful frustration for every language learner out there.
Oh, absolutely. It's the one thing everyone knows.
It's that massive, crushing gap, the gap between understanding all the grammar rules on paper.
And then actually having to speak with a real person in the real world.
Exactly.
You can spend years, literally years, studying, filling up notebooks, mastering all the verb
We
conjugations.
feel so prepared.
You feel totally prepared. And then a native speaker just asks you a simple question like, how was your weekend? And boom.
That internal wall just goes straight up.
It does. The nerves hit, the shyness kicks in, and that fear of looking foolish it completely locks your mouth shut.
It's paralyzing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've heard from so many of our listeners that this fear, this kind of performance anxiety, it's the ultimate barrier. It's what stops them from reaching that, effortless fluency.
And it doesn't matter how much vocabulary you have stored in your head. If you can't get it out,
It's useless. But I think the first thing to say is, if you feel this way, you are not alone.
not at all. You're simply human. This is a normal part of the process.
So our deep dive today is going to be super practical.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through the core research, we've looked at successful learning methods, and we've tried to extract the simplest, most powerful, and most actionable ideas.
Our mission today is really to give you, the listener, a kind of step-by-step guide. We want to help you bypass that internal fear barrier.
Right. To boost your speaking confidence and just finally feel comfortable using the English that, let's be honest, you already know.
Exactly. And before we even get into any of the tools or techniques,
We have to lay the foundation.
we need to completely reset our expectations of what confidence even is.
Yes. This is so important. The sources are really clear on this. Confidence is not magic.
It is not. It's not some unearned reward that just appears one day.
You don't just wake up confident.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. The research is so clear. True linguistic confidence, it's grown, it's built painstakingly, brick by brick,
Slowly.
very slowly, step by step. Every single time you practice, every time you open your mouth to speak, and this is the crucial part, every single time you allow yourself to make a mistake.
So if you're feeling unconfident right now,
Oh.
that's actually not a bad sign.
No, it's a sign that you're in the middle of it.
It's not a sign that you're failing.
Yeah.
It's a sign that you are actively learning. You're just in the middle of this huge growth process.
And the tools we're about to discuss, they're designed specifically to speed up that process by shifting your internal relationship with the language itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the very, very beginning, the moment a thought even begins to form.
Mm-hmm.
The sources identify something they call the translation trap. And this is maybe the single biggest hurdle preventing natural confident speech.
It's a really deeply ingrained habit, especially if your native language is, structurally very different from English.
So what does it look like in practice?
Well, when you need to speak, your brain's default process is surprisingly complex. First, you formulate the entire thought, right? But you do it in your native language.
Language A.
Exactly, language A. Then, step 2, your brain tries to do this real-time word-for-word conversion into English, into language B.
And only then, after all that mental work, do you even try to say the English phrase out loud.
Right.
And it creates this huge noticeable delay, doesn't it? You can almost see it when someone's doing it. There's a pause, you can see the strain on their face, and then the sentence comes out.
Slowly. And it often misses the natural rhythm of English.
I love this analogy from the source material. It's like trying to run a really complex, heavy program on an old computer that just doesn't have enough processing power.
That is a perfect analogy, because that's exactly what's happening in your brain. It's called working memory overload.
Okay, break that down for us.
Your working memory is the part of your brain that handles immediate tasks. And when you're translating, you're forcing it to juggle two huge processes at once: formulation and translation.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It's mentally exhausting. It ramps up your anxiety, and it just severely limits your ability to speak spontaneously. You're so busy with the mechanics of it all that you lose the actual meaning of what you're trying to say.
So what's the alternative?
Mm-hmm.
The deep dive suggests something that sounds, well, it sounds revolutionary. The idea is to practice thinking directly in English,
That's the goal.
to train your brain to just bypass your native language completely.
Yeah.
So the thought starts and ends in English.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? It sounds like you'd have to be fluent already to even begin.
Not at all. And that's the key insight from the sources. The key is to start small.
Okay.
Really small. You're not trying to think about philosophy or, complex political issues in English. You start with the simplest, most immediate thoughts you have, things that are tied directly to your physical reality.
You're trying to create automaticity, right?
That's the word. You're shifting this process from your slow conscious memory to your fast unconscious procedural memory. You want it to be automatic.
So let's give the listener some concrete, right out of the box examples from the sources. These are literally the scripts you can start running in your head, like right now.
Okay.
So when you feel a basic physical need, you label it. In English, for example, I'm hungry.
Simple as that. That phrase becomes a neurological shortcut. You feel that sensation in your stomach, and your brain immediately links it to the English phrase, I'm hungry. There's no middleman.
No translation.
You're connecting that internal state directly to the English label.
Okay, another one for planning a simple action. I'm going to work.
Yes. The intention to get up, to leave the house, to commute, it's processed directly as an English sentence. Now, this might seem trivial.
It does seem almost too simple.
It does. But most learners default to their native language for these little internal thoughts because it feels safer. It's comfortable. What we're doing here is disrupting that safe, slow default pattern.
Okay, how about an external observation? The weather is nice today.
This is great because it trains your descriptive muscles. You're taking in sensory input, sunshine, rain, wind, whatever, and immediately generating the English output. You're kind of doing a constant self-narration drill of your environment.
And the last two from the list relate back to your internal state.
Mm-hmm.
I feel tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I want some tea.
These 5 examples are the perfect starting point. They're micro habits, they're low stakes, but they're very high frequency thoughts that we all have all day long.
And when you practice them consistently,
You're keeping your brain inside the English language. You are literally laying down new neurological pathways that make smooth, spontaneous speaking possible. If you say, I want some tea to yourself 100 times,
then when you're actually in a cafe and you need to say it out loud.
there's zero hesitation. It just comes out.
So this basic practice, this internal monologue, it then flows naturally into the next stage, right? Which is integrating English into small, real moments throughout the day. Habit formation.
Yes, and the beauty of this next step is that you don't need anyone else. You don't need an audience. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a language partner to build this foundation.
The sources really stress this, don't they? That you can build these incredibly strong habits completely alone.
Constantly, throughout your day.
The goal, then, is to make English just part of the background noise of your life, to weave it into the mundane, everyday stuff.
Exactly.
So let's get really granular with the how-to examples the sources provide for this. This is the solo speaking practice.
The best place to start is with routine chores, something you do every day without thinking. For instance, the simple act of making breakfast.
Right. And you use the present continuous tense here, which is such a key skill for fluency, to just narrate what you're doing.
So instead of just making breakfast in silence, you're either verbally, out loud, or just internally describing the process.
We're talking super specific phrases here, like, I'm cutting the vegetables.
I'm boiling the water.
I'm cooking eggs on the stove.
Or I'm washing the dishes now.
And this is so powerful because you're practicing core grammar and vocab in a real context.
Yes, you're attaching the English verb directly to the physical action you're performing. You're checking your knowledge against reality in a situation that has zero pressure. If you can describe yourself chopping an onion,
You're building competence.
you are. And what about when you leave the house?
The sources suggest you just continue the narration, but you shift from describing your actions to describing your environment.
So as you're walking outside, you're observing, the sky is overcast today.
The air smells like rain,
I see a red car driving quickly.
or there are many people waiting for the bus.
What I find so brilliant about this is the consistency it builds. If you make breakfast every single morning and you commute to work every day,
You've just automatically created, what, 20 or 30 minutes of low-stakes, consistent daily speaking practice?
without ever having to schedule a formal study session.
And that consistency, that's the secret sauce for confidence, isn't it?
It's everything. When your brain is constantly using English to label and describe and process your daily life, the stress that comes with a real conversation, it just drops dramatically.
The language stops feeling like a foreign performance.
Exactly. And it starts feeling like a natural, integrated tool that you're just ready to use. That jump from foreign to familiar is the fundamental building block of speaking confidence.
Okay, so we've trained the brain to think in English. We've woven it into our daily lives.
Hmm.
Now, how do we make sure that when those thoughts come out of our mouths, they sound, well, fast, smooth, and natural?
Right. This is the next level. This section is all about the practical techniques to improve your sound, your rhythm, and your speed.
And we have to start with the technique the sources championed above all others, the power of shadowing.
Shadowing is so much more than just simple repetition. It's really a fluency hack.
So at its core, what is it?
Shadowing is listening to a piece of audio, a sentence, a little bit of dialogue, and repeating it immediately, almost like an echo. You're trying to match the speaker's pace, rhythm, and intonation, either while they're still talking or just milliseconds after they finish.
It's the immediacy that's the key. That's what makes it so hard, but also so effective.
It is. You can't pause. You can't stop to think. You definitely can't translate. You're forced to just surrender control to the rhythm of the language and match it in real time.
And the sources detail a threefold benefit to this, right? This relentless imitation.
They do. First, and this is the most obvious one, it sharpens your pronunciation.
It's physical training.
It's physical training for your mouth. You are forcing your tongue and your lip muscles to make the specific shapes and sounds for English phonology, which are often very different from your native language.
Okay, that's benefit one. What's number two?
Second, and maybe even more importantly, shadowing dramatically improves your rhythm and your intonation.
The musicality of the language.
The music, exactly. English is what's called a stress-timed language. Certain syllables get stressed, and others are reduced or almost swallowed. When you shadow, you're not just copying words, you're copying the stress patterns, the cadence.
You're copying how it feels to speak that way.
That's a great way to put it. And third, it improves your production speed. By forcing your brain to process and produce the language almost instantaneously, shadowing is actively attacking the root cause of that translation trap we just talked about.
So you're basically borrowing the native speaker's fluency.
And training your own brain to move at that same pace.
Now, the goal is to sound more natural, but I think the common critique we hear is that shadowing just feels overwhelming. People try it once and give up.
It can be.
So how do the sources suggest listeners actually start? And are there different kinds of shadowing?
Yes, and this is a crucial distinction. We need to differentiate between intensive shadowing and extensive shadowing.
Okay. Intent?
Intensive shadowing is when you use a transcript. You focus on a very short, specific segment, maybe just 30 seconds of audio, and you repeat it over and over and over until you nail a specific sound or a tricky stress pattern. It's detail work.
So it's about precision and analysis.
Yeah.
It's high effort, high focus.
Exactly. Extensive shadowing, on the other hand, is all about flow and volume.
Okay.
You don't use a transcript. You might listen to a much longer clip, say 5 or 10 minutes, and you just try to keep up. You're mimicking the general cadence and energy, even if you miss a few words here and there.
This one sounds more like building endurance.
That's precisely what it is. And the sources also suggest using the I+1 concept for your material,
Meaning?
meaning you find material that's just slightly challenging, but not impossible. If you can understand about, say, 80% of the audio, that's the perfect sweet spot for shadowing.
And what's the mindset here? Because if you're aiming for perfection, you're going to get frustrated very quickly.
The key mindset for both types is that perfection is not the goal. It's not even on the radar. The aim is to copy the speaker's emotional state, their tone, their timing. Start with really short bursts, maybe 3 minutes of intense shadowing a day, and just build up slowly.
Consistency over perfection.
Consistency is the only metric of success here, not flawless execution.
Okay, so shadowing is production practice, but production always has to be fueled by massive input.
Always.
Which brings us to what the sources call the input engine, the absolute necessity of listening every single day.
Constant input is completely non-negotiable if you want to increase your confidence. The mechanism is all about neurological familiarity.
The more you hear it, the less foreign it sounds.
Exactly. If you hear English often, your brain spends less energy trying to decode unfamiliar sounds and sentence structures, and if the language is highly familiar,
Your processing speed goes way up.
correct. And we know that the speed of your comprehension directly governs the speed of your response.
That makes so much sense.
If your brain can understand the incoming stream of language quickly and efficiently, you're so much less likely to freeze up when it's your turn to speak. The material is already active in your short-term memory, ready to go.
The sources bring up a fascinating concept here about the quality of your input, the effective filter hypothesis. Can you walk us through that?
Certainly. The effective filter is, it's essentially our emotional barrier. It's our internal wall of anxiety or boredom or just lack of motivation.
Okay.
When that filter is high, when you're stressed or you're bored or you're being forced to listen to some complex material you absolutely hate, your brain just shuts down. Language acquisition slows to a crawl.
So if the input is something you actually enjoy, let's say a great podcast or a YouTube documentary about something you love.
The filter drops immediately.
Mhm.
And when that filter is low, language acquisition speeds up because your brain is relaxed, it's receptive, it's engaged.
Which is why the sources say to listen to anything you find enjoyable.
Anything. Podcasts, sports commentary, news, music, video games, stories. Whatever keeps you engaged is the right thing to be listening to.
And the flexibility here is key, isn't it? You can do this while you're commuting or cooking or exercising.
It makes the language feel like a natural, constant part of your world, not some dreaded academic subject you have to study for. This constant, low-stakes input builds that solid foundation of familiarity.
Which makes you less likely to panic when a real conversation starts.
Exactly.
So we've established the internal tools, the technical tools. Now we have to confront the most destructive barrier of all.
The psychological one.
The one that can undo all the good preparation we just talked about. The overwhelming fear of making a mistake.
This fear is the primary reason people stall. It's the reason they quit. It's incredibly powerful.
And the sources are great at articulating those internal thoughts that just paralyze a nervous learner.
Oh, yeah. It's that voice saying, if I use the wrong tense, people are going to secretly laugh at me.
Or, I will look so stupid if I can't find the right word in time.
Mm-hmm. And those thoughts trigger a fundamental avoidance response in the brain.
The brain concludes, silence equals safety.
Right. But this is the moment where we need a complete mindset reset. The source material is adamant that this fear is entirely counterproductive to the goal of fluency.
So let's get to the core lesson here.
The core lesson is this. Mistakes are not a moral failing. They are not a sign of low intelligence. And they are not optional.
They're a necessary part of the process.
A natural, necessary part of learning any complex skill. Think about learning to play the guitar or learning to drive a car. You try, you stumble, you play a wrong note, you scrape the car against the curb, you adjust.
Mistakes are just data points. That's it.
They're feedback.
Mhm.
The only way you find out which words or structures you haven't mastered yet is by trying to use them and having them. Well, fail in communication. You can't fix something if you don't realize it's broken.
The person who stays silent makes zero mistakes.
But they also get zero new feedback about their proficiency. Every single mistake you make teaches you something crucial. It drives your growth and ensures your next attempt will be better.
And the literature reminds us, even highly educated native speakers make mistakes.
All the time. They make grammatical slips, they mispronounce words, they mix up idioms every single day. It's just the cost of communicating in real time.
So the ultimatum for building confidence, as distilled from this research, is crystal clear.
Don't let fear dictate your actions. Talking is exponentially more important than being perfect.
Fluency, at its heart, is a measure of the volume of your output, right? Not the precision.
Exactly. Fluency grows when you speak frequently and you accept the risk of being imperfect.
Hmm.
It does not grow when you stay silent, waiting for some distant, mythical day when you'll suddenly be flawless.
The pursuit of perfection is the enemy of progress.
It is the great enemy of progress in language learning. You have to embrace the awkwardness to get better.
So once a learner has started integrating those solo habits, the thinking in English, the shadowing, what's a natural next step for practice?
The natural progression is to seek low-pressure external practice. And this brings us to the huge benefit of partner practice, the consistency advantage.
Okay.
Practicing with a partner, a friend, a classmate, a language exchange partner. It gives you a safe, low-stakes environment to test out all those internal systems you've been building.
The key here is finding the right person, isn't it?
It is. The key requirement is finding someone who shares the same goal: improvement and non-judgmental support. You have to be in the struggle together.
But I think a lot of learners dread partner practice because they assume it means hours of awkward, forced conversation.
Right. They imagine this long, painful ordeal.
So what do the sources recommend in terms of time commitment to make it sustainable?
This is where it gets really approachable. The sources are extremely specific.
Hmm.
Focus on consistency, not length. You only need 5 or 10 minutes a day.
That's it. Just 5 or 10 minutes.
That's it. You do not need a 2-hour complex debate on politics. You just need regular, structured, low-pressure interaction.
5 or 10 minutes is, well, anyone can find that. It completely removes the pressure of time and it lowers the psychological stakes.
Totally. If you make a huge grammatical error, who cares? You only wasted 5 minutes of your day, not a massive, stressful hour.
And we can make those 5 or 10 minutes even lower pressure by giving them a structure.
Yes. Instead of just saying, okay, let's chat, which can be intimidating.
Dreaded chat.
All right. Structure it around a simple activity. For example, use that time to share the 3 things you did during your morning routine, using that present continuous tense you practiced alone.
Or talk about 3 things you observed on your commute.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a great way to link the solo internal practice from Section 1 directly to external output here in Section 3.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
testing preloaded material in a safe context. And what happens over time with these short, consistent interactions is really remarkable.
What's the result?
The regular low-dose exposure to real conversation, it leads to greater relaxation. The language stops feeling like a high-stakes performance.
And becomes a normal, comfortable exchange.
This is how confidence, the actual ability to relax while you're speaking, is truly built. The more often you survive a conversation, the less fearful you become of the next one.
We've covered the internal shift, the production techniques, and the huge mindset change about mistakes.
Right.
Now, for the long haul, how do we keep this momentum going? How do we sustain it? It seemed to come down to creating a really potent feedback loop for confidence growth.
And that starts with celebrating the small successes.
We have this natural human tendency to only focus on the massive distant goals, don't we? The big exam score, the official certification, the perfect accent.
But confidence is like a muscle. It grows when you actively notice and celebrate the tiny daily achievements. You have to learn how to be your own most enthusiastic, positive coach.
The research is so clear on this. Positive reinforcement, even if it's just you telling yourself good job, is the engine of sustained motivation. You have to see the small victories.
Because they fuel your desire to keep going.
So let's make this really specific. What are the kinds of micro successes that you absolutely must celebrate?
Okay, first one. Did you speak English for one full, uninterrupted minute today, either to yourself or with your partner?
That's a huge achievement in output volume.
It is, especially for a learner who normally avoids conversation. That 1 minute is proof of courage.
Okay, another one, even simpler. Did you learn and successfully use one new phrase or one new word today?
That's direct progress. You've expanded your toolkit. You've integrated a new piece of data into your active vocabulary. That is tangible growth.
And critically, did you successfully attempt to pronounce a difficult sentence or structure that you usually avoid?
That is pure courage. That's stepping outside your comfort zone.
These micro achievements are manageable, they're daily, and they're verifiable. At the end of the day, you can look back and say, okay, I did these 3 specific things today that helped my language growth.
And that builds competence. And
Yeah.
competence is the truest, most solid foundation of confidence.
When you acknowledge that every little step matters, and you're genuinely proud of the small, valuable learning process you're in.
You fundamentally change the nature of the whole experience. It becomes sustainable and enjoyable and rewarding instead of something stressful and demanding.
And this brings us to our final point, which is so necessary for this long-term journey. Maintaining patience and perspective. Learning a language is a multi-year effort. It's vital to normalize the fact that there will be ups and downs.
Absolutely. The sources remind us that the learning curve isn't a straight line. It's incredibly variable.
You'll have days, maybe even weeks, where you feel sharp and fast and fluent, and everything just clicks.
And then you'll also have days where you feel tired and confused and forgetful, and you're convinced you've actually gone backwards.
And that variance, those plateaus, they are a completely normal and scientifically proven part of acquiring any skill.
It's on those low days that so many learners despair. They think, I'm not improving, I must be failing.
But that temporary emotional state, it's not a reflection of the hundreds of hours of progress you've already banked.
You'd have to trust the process.
So we have to reiterate the ultimate distilled path forward here.
Confidence isn't a single gift that you receive. It's a cumulative effect. It doesn't grow in one day.
Look,
But with consistent daily practice of those micro habits thinking in English, shadowing structured low-pressure practice, setting small goals improvement isn't just likely, it is absolutely guaranteed.
you will speak more clearly, more naturally, and with profoundly greater confidence than you did yesterday.
This whole deep dive has really been about shifting English from an abstract academic subject.
To a lived, internal, and active part of your daily routine. Every single tool we discussed, bypassing the translation trap, daily solo practice, shadowing, valuing imperfect output over silent perfection, it all points to that one goal.
Internalized confidence.
And you, the listener, you've already done the hardest part.
You have. You've shown up with the motivation and the commitment to listen to this. Now, you just have to take that motivation and channel it into one tiny, actionable, low-pressure habit that you can sustain every day.
So as we close this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final specific challenge. Since confidence starts small and grows with practice, just reflect for a moment on your own internal monologue. What is one tiny specific moment today? maybe while you're opening a can of soda or standing in an elevator or just waiting for a website to load. You can dedicate to thinking or speaking one small English phrase just to yourself.
Don't pick a complex moment. Pick the easiest, most mundane moment you can possibly imagine. Commit to that one phrase, that one description, that one internal thought. That small, low-pressure victory is the first seed.
And from that seed, your greater, more relaxed, and more authentic confidence will sprout.
Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and just keep moving forward with that sense of courage.
Remember, you are doing an amazing job. Every single word you speak, no matter how imperfect or slow it feels, is a foundational step bringing you closer to mastery.